Our Western minds can only grasp a small part of the total possibilities of musical experience. Consider the world's newest instrument, Vancouver's lumophone. And its inventor is here tonight, Benton Rourke. Where our ears hear 12 tones per octave, this instrument has 31 tones per octave. Our next guest walks the fine line between the familiar comfort of our cultural traditions and exploring new boundaries. She has been making waves through the world of contemporary music. She's won many awards, including being nominated for a Juno. She is the composer in residence of the Vancouver Symphony Orchestra. Please welcome Jocelyn Morlock and friends Brian Nesselrode and Colin van der Reep.
Thank you so much, Sam and Lynn. This is just an awesome event to be part of. It's one of those things I never thought I'd find myself doing. But I have to say, though, my life as a composer is generally very unusual, unpredictable, and exciting. I'm always hearing new music being performed right here in Vancouver. And even though there are an array of ways to hear music electronically, like YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Naxos, etc., the newest of the music is something that you might never hear unless you're right there in the room with the performers. Even if you do, a recorded experience can't capture what it really feels like being there. So with that in mind, here are just a very few of some of the more unusual musical events that have occurred recently in Vancouver that will hopefully entice you to check out some future ones. This is Jean Coulthard, who in fact was the namesake of the Jean Coulthard readings, which are the most traditional thing I'm going to tell you about tonight. The Jean Coulthard readings offer emerging composers a chance to hear orchestral music played live by the VSO. This is ordinarily the first time that these composers will ever hear their music played by a full orchestra, and it's a free morning show if you ever happen to go. This is actually an incredible event. It would be impossible to have it happen without a large organization and a ton of people working together with combined tens of thousands of expertise and practice. I should say that very early in Jean Coulthard reading history, I was one of the lucky ones who got my piece played. It was the most terrifying experience of my life. And look where I am now. So you never know. Check this out. This is a collaboration between Chartier Dance of Toronto and Rodney Sharman's music, Rodney being a Vancouver composer. This is called Study for a Crouching Figure. This collaboration included uncompromising music by Rodney Sharman for amplified string quartet and piano. Now, amplified string quartet is itself rather unusual. Classical quartets are not traditionally amplified. The music is painfully intense, uses only the extremes of the piano register, very high, very low, very loud, and the middle range played by these amplified strings. It is not a sound you will hear anywhere else in the world. Truly strange. Marie-José Chartier's dance was inspired by this music and by the work of Francis Bacon, in particular his black triptychs, painted in memory of his lover, George Dyer. It is incredible, tense, dark, tortured work. Very few human beings in the world are capable of the physical endurance to perform this dance. Brendan Wyatt of Toronto is currently the only dancer in the world who's performing it, and that was the only time it's been danced here. So you really missed out, but if you go to Toronto, you might get to see it. Sorry. This is Vancouver Ensemble Standing Wave performing Nicole Liset's Hitchcock Etudes. This is music written for acoustic instruments which are at times amplified and altered by electronic manipulation techniques borrowed from 90s electronica music called glitch. There's also manipulated video clips, as you can see there, Alfred Hitchcock movies as you'd never see them normally. It's a weird combination of retro and modern. Visually, one of the stranger movements is something of a selfie, where Liset places her own image in the film, sitting pensively on a piano bench and then melting out of it again. You just don't know what's going on. It's like, is it Hitchcock? Sort of. Very odd. Now, the music is startlingly analogous to the retro selfie idea. In addition to playing with visual images, Liset constantly manipulates the film's music and words. He chops them up, repeats, twists. The results are quirky, haunting, and campy, and you probably can see this piece or another one by her again. I happen to have heard rumor that Standing Wave, perhaps Push Festival, perhaps Music on Main, but someone out there in the next year is going to be presenting more of this, and you wouldn't want to miss it. Speaking of Music on Main and Push Festival, This is the one and only Gabriel Gardemou in his almost indescribably odd and wonderful one-man show, Anthropologie Imaginaire. This show is peopled with fictitious others, characters from murky, invented cultures whose vocalizations sound similarly exotic and familiar. All the others in it are portrayed by Gardemou, who's an amazing and also elastic, just fabulous person to watch and listen to. And an at first confusing, even hilarious touch. He has videos going on at the same time of experts commenting on these invented cultures, but these characters too are all made up. They're really funny, but they also force us to look at how we view other cultures and how we might see things as foreign and exotic without really turning that lens on itself. It's a strange and thought-provoking sort of a show. Gabriel Gardemou will be back in the coming year. He's also been exciting places like Amsterdam, worldwide. He's going to have an amazing career, so I would go see him wherever he was if I was you. Here's what we got next. Is this right? No. Ah, yes, the point is you can never be too greedy. This was a concert I was part of at the Annex recently, in which we presented Les Moutons de Panurge of Frédéric Rzewski, a piece not brand new, but certainly new to us, and we did rather a new interpretation. Now, Panurge was a simple character, a simple man who just wanted to buy a sheep while he was on a boat. And he did. He bought a sheep while on a boat from a boat-dwelling sheep seller who cheated him. That was hard to say. He got his revenge, though. He threw his sheep overboard, and every single other sheep of that sheep seller followed him, and that was easier to say. So, now, this is the story that Rzewski used for his piece Moutons de Panurge, in which there are two groups of people performing. First, the musicians. This is a musical piece, by the way. The musicians are given a confounding melody to play in unison, and it's very easy to get lost in it. And if you do, you are supposed to stay lost, even though you're feeling sheepish and you'd really rather follow the others. As people get lost, of course, this causes at first counterpoint and later pandemonium. The second group of performers are the non-musicians, who are also playing music, but their music is specifically meant to make the lives of the musicians more difficult. The non-musicians encourage their followers, the audience, to make as much noise as possible. The battling aspect of this piece and the potential to blindly follow someone remind me of the pre-election climate of the USA. Really. And so we had our non-musicians dressed as politicians, exhorting the crowd and confronting each other with maracas and other implements of destruction and these signs. There were worse signs, that's just Trump. Anyway. Last one. Guess what this is? No, it's not supper. I got to be one of the performers at a recent Hard Rubber Orchestra show in local composer Mariah Menney's quartet, Music of the Spheres. Now, isn't Music of the Spheres just the best name for a piece that is played entirely with marbles in glass? Those are marbles in glass. The musical score is graphic notation. It's beautiful, color-coded. It lays out a timeline. It tells you approximately what to do, and from there, you're on your own to perform and hear each other and react. And one of the most challenging things about playing this strange piece was remembering not to get too loud too quickly, because if you do, you run the risk of breaking the glass, or worse, losing your marbles. I'm sorry. It really happened. It was in the middle of it. We were getting too loud, and they're bouncing. It was really fun. Yes. And the very last thing, no pictures of it because it's here live. The Lumaphone. As Sam has told you, this is a 31-tone, equal temperament mallet percussion instrument made of glass, invented by composer, performer, and instrument maker Benton Rourke, one of the co-artistic directors of Vancouver's Red Shift Music, who put on some of the most amazing shows around. Now, for reference, your standard classical musical instrument, like a piano, has 12 tones per octave. All those black and white keys, only 12. This instrument has almost 3 times that many, which you've probably never heard before. And here to play the world premiere of Benton Rourke's Lumaphone duet, a petite duet named Asterion, are Brian Nesselrode and Colin van der Reep. I'm sure they're here with me somewhere. Hello, I'm about to leave you, but before I do, and before they play the duet, could I ask you to play a chromatic scale so that we hear how totally different that sounds on this instrument compared to on a piano?